Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a massive, multi-billion-dollar corporate drama that completely shook the foundations of global football. And the wildest part is, the whole thing played out in just a matter of days. We're looking at a historic clash between the immense financial gravity of private investment and the deeply rooted traditions of the world's absolute most popular sport. It is a story of money, power, and a rapid global rebellion.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for The Explainer. First, the $4.2 billion pitch. Then, following the money. After that, we'll look at the global revolt, the threat of a boycott, and finally, how Infantino backs down.
So, Section 1, the $4.2 billion pitch.
To really understand the scale of this collapse, we have to set the scene. Imagine this. On a totally normal Tuesday, FIFA President Gianni Infantino floats a proposal to the world that was entirely unprecedented in the history of the sport. To grasp just how big this plan was, take a look at this valuation. FIFA proposed creating a brand new commercial subsidiary, which they called the FIFA Forward Enterprise, or FFE. Now, this new entity was designed to take control of running their flagship global events, most notably the World Cup and the Club World Cup. And the total valuation they slapped on this new commercial arm, a staggering $20 billion.
And right here is where the private market comes in. Out of that $20 billion valuation, FIFA aimed to raise up to $4.2 billion by actually selling off a stake in this new FFE subsidiary to private investors. I mean, this would have marked a historic shift. We are talking about an absolutely massive injection of private equity directly into the operational heart of international football's biggest tournaments.
Section 2, following the money.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer amount of cash that was being dangled to make this happen. A sweeping change like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? To convince their 211 member associations to actually approve this historic sale, FIFA brought massive financial incentives to the table. The cyclic funding allocation for the 2027 to 2030 cycle was set to absolutely skyrocket, jumping from the current $8 million all the way up to $20 million per member. And if that somehow wasn't enough, the project promised an additional one-off payment of $20 million to each of the 211 member associations in early 2027. So it was an incredibly lucrative pitch, clearly designed to win overwhelming support.
Section 3, the global revolt. Well, if FIFA leadership thought this was going to be a slam dunk, they were dead wrong. The reaction was definitely not what they anticipated. In a matter of hours, a fierce global backlash ignited, rapidly transforming into this intense ideological clash between the commercialization of sports and the traditional guardianship of the game. The resistance was spearheaded by UEFA, European football's governing body, and their response? It left absolutely no room for negotiation. They stated bluntly, and I quote, "The World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product. No part of it should ever be surrendered to private investors. The World Cup is not for sale." So the crucial point to take away here is that for UEFA, this wasn't simply a debate about a $4.2 billion valuation. This was a fundamental, existential opposition to allowing private investors to own even a small slice of the sport's premier event.
But the pressure wasn't just coming from rival confederations. It was coming from inside the house. By Friday, senior FIFA advisor Carlos Cordero resigned in protest. His departure statement was absolutely scathing. He called the idea a bad deal for FIFA's member associations, a bad deal for football, and a bad deal for the long-term future of the game. The internal consensus was rapidly breaking apart.
And you know, this revolt truly went global. It wasn't just Europe pushing back. The Asian Football Confederation, which represents 47 member nations, and CONCACAF, representing North America and the Caribbean, both officially condemned the move. But perhaps even more telling was the reaction from CONMEBOL down in South America. Their president, Alejandro Dominguez, who is widely considered a very close ally of Gianni Infantino, completely refused to blindly support it. Instead, he demanded urgent information on the scope, structure, governance, and potential effects of the project. Suddenly, FIFA found itself virtually isolated.
Section 4, threat of a boycott. At this point, the situation rapidly escalated past strongly worded press releases. The opposition decided to bring their ultimate leverage to the table. UEFA threatened that literally none of its national teams would participate in any FIFA competition for as long as these proposals remained alive. Let that sink in. At the same time, the AFC publicly raised alarms, stating that the fact that a real possibility of a FIFA World Cup boycott had even entered public discourse should deeply concern everyone who cares about the game. Basically, the very existence of the next World Cup was suddenly in serious jeopardy. And the pressure couldn't be contained to just the football world either. Major international political figures started weighing in. The European Union formally praised UEFA for defending the integrity of the game. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham publicly stated that Gianni Infantino was the wrong man to lead FIFA. So this corporate pitch had somehow triggered a full-blown international political incident.
Section 5. Infantino backs down.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how compressed this timeline really was. Faced with a unified global revolt and the very real threat of Europe and Asia literally walking away from the table, FIFA had to retreat. The speed of this unraveling is just stunning. Look at this timeline. On Tuesday, the $4.2 billion plan is floated. By Friday, we have high-level resignations and boycott threats. And by Saturday, the entire plan is completely scrapped. It was a multi-billion-dollar corporate thriller that began and ended in the span of a single workweek.
The official surrender came late Saturday night in a formal statement from Gianni Infantino himself. He stated that the project was originally conceived as a means to strengthen member associations, but ultimately, he had to concede. He wrote, "Having listened carefully to all the views, it has become clear that the project has created divisions. As a result, this proposal will not proceed." He noted that his intent moving forward is to bring interested parties back together in the spirit of shared interest.
Which brings us to the ultimate question we are left with today. This specific $4.2 billion deal was stopped dead in its tracks by a coalition of traditionalists. But when you look at the massive sums of money involved, we really have to ask, can the commercialization of global sports truly be stopped, or is it merely delayed? Are massive private equity deals in international football dead forever, or are investors just waiting in the wings for a slightly better pitch? I'll leave you to ponder that. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we will see you next time.